Hello and welcome back, or welcome if you're new to my channel. This is a channel that's dedicated to helping people to work through complex PTSD. So if you have CPTSD for whatever reason, right? Because in the end, it doesn't matter why you have it. It just matters that it's there. Your nervous system has been affected, and now it's about working through it so that you can live a trauma-free life. If that's a topic that you're interested in, then this channel is for you. Today, I wanted to talk about working through toxic shame. I wanted to talk about two things that's needed in order to work through toxic shame. This information I feel is so important because I know with myself, I thought on my recovery journey, as I was working through my own CPTSD recovery, I thought toxic shame would just go away on its own. After all, I didn't even know I had it, right? So the fact that I learned that I had it was huge because they say you can't change anything until it's in your conscious awareness. So I was like, okay, I see it. Then I learned about it and why I had it. And I was like, all right, well, I wasn't born that way. I didn't choose to have toxic shame. This is the result of something that happened because of the circumstances that I lived. Awesome. So it's really not part of my authentic self. Therefore, now that I know this, it's just going to go away. I mean, that's what I thought would happen. And then I just found time was passing, the years were passing, and the toxic shame was just as intense, if not getting stronger. And that's when I realized that more was needed than just understanding and cognitive knowledge. So in this video, I'm going to talk about two things that really helped me. I'm actually putting together a series on shame. It's going to be a free email series that's going to provide you with different information that helps you to work through toxic shame if you can identify with it. So I don't have a link right now, but make sure you watch my upcoming videos, hit the bell icon so you're notified of my next videos, because once that link is up, the email series is only going to be available for a short period of time. That being said, let's dive in. For those that don't know me, my name is Michelle. I'm a survivor of narcissistic family systems. I'm now a trauma-informed coach, a somatic experiencing practitioner, and the founder of Thriver School of Transformation, which is a monthly membership where we meet live on Zoom and we do the inner work together. So if you're looking for support, you're definitely going to want to check that out. Okay, so let's talk about those two things that's needed, and make sure you watch to the end because I'm going to provide an exercise that's going to help you to build your capacity to be with shame. In Thriver School of Transformation, we had a monthly theme of overcoming toxic shame recently. And one of the things I mentioned that's needed in order to overcome toxic shame is to really start noticing and changing our thoughts. Now, hear me out, because that can sound so simple and so, yeah, Michelle, like we know that. But here's the thing. A lot of the thoughts that keep shame alive are in our implicit memory. They've been a part of us for so long. They're like background music. We don't even hear them. And so they're default thoughts in the sense that you don't have to try to have them. They just come, they just happen, and they keep shame alive. So they're thoughts that feed beliefs like I'm bad, there's something wrong with me, I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I don't deserve. So any thoughts that feed into that, like, you're so stupid, I can't believe you said that, everyone's going to reject you, if people knew who you really are, they would abandon you. The only reason they're nice to you is because they want something. And honestly, I can go on and on and on, but you guys know what thoughts I'm talking about. They're the thoughts of somebody that's kind of kicking you when you're down. And the sad part is that they're coming from inside of us. Now, again, this is default thinking. This is because of something we lived or circumstances that we endured. So we're not choosing them in the moment. However, time doesn't update them. Time doesn't change them. And if we continue to have the same thoughts that created the shame, right? They were from outside of self, and then we internalized them. The things that were said to us that became that negative inner dialogue were unkind, unloving, disempowering words that chipped away at your sense of self and your self-esteem. And if that is now your inner dialogue, then you can be away from all toxic people, all abusive people. And it's almost like they planted a virus in you that keeps the toxic shame that they inflicted alive. Now, again, when I learned that part of it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, those thoughts are bad. I don't want to have those thoughts. I thought because my conscious mind made the decision to not have them anymore, that my brain would stop giving them to me. I didn't realize the difference between how my conscious mind works and my subconscious mind. Those default thought patterns were actually in my implicit memory. They were part of my subconscious mind. And so The way my subconscious mind works versus my conscious mind is my conscious mind evaluates. Ooh, good thought, bad thought. I like that. That helps me. Oh, that really disempowers me. The subconscious mind doesn't think like that. It simply says, these are the thoughts you always have. Therefore, I'm going to continue to give them to you because they make up what has become you, your self-image. And it doesn't have a preference as far as good thought, bad thought. It just says familiarity is safe. So even when we recognize that our thoughts are not helping us and that they're hurting us, doesn't mean that your brain now starts giving you different thoughts. This is where we have to do the work. We have to actively notice what thoughts come into my brain all the time. We have to actively notice. And so I want you to pause this video and I want you to write down the internalized thoughts that you learned from your family members or bullies or people in your life that made you feel unworthy or bad about yourself. Make a list of the things you say to yourself that reveal that you've internalized the way they treated you. Pause this video and make that list. Okay, so now you have the list of the program that you didn't choose. You didn't choose these thoughts to feed the negative belief and emotion of toxic shame, but it's there because of your circumstance, right? This wasn't something you chose. Now you see it before you. The next step I want you to do is pause this video and make a new list. Make a list of the beliefs that you choose. So for example, and I'm changing color in this video. Anyway, for example, if you have the belief, I am bad. If you were to say, I choose to believe I am bad, does that resonate with your body? I'm hoping it doesn't. So if it doesn't, ask yourself, if I could choose, what would I want to believe about myself? And now make a list of the beliefs and thoughts that you would choose. It might be, I choose to believe I'm just as worthy as anybody else. I choose to believe that I'm lovable, even though I'm imperfect. I choose to believe that I'm a good person, even though I make mistakes. So make a list of beliefs that you would choose to have. And I'm going to stretch you a little bit more, right? And I'm going to encourage you to ask yourself, if you really believed that about yourself, what thoughts would you have that you don't have now? What would you be thinking and saying to yourself that you're not thinking and saying now? Pause this video and make that list. So now you have both lists. You have the default list. You don't have to try to have those thoughts. You don't have to try to believe those things. They're just going to happen. In fact, trying to not have them come up is like trying to stop a train by getting on the tracks and putting out your hand. It's not going to work. So you don't want to try to stop them because that creates more resistance and it's not going to work. So rather than trying to stop them, I encourage you to notice them and acknowledge that they're there. So when it comes up, like a thought might come up like, oh, you're such an idiot. I can't believe you did that. You're so stupid. Notice it and be like, oh, there's that thought, internalized voice that I'm now beating myself and saying I'm stupid. And at that moment, give your brain a choice. Ask yourself, do I want to talk to myself this way? If I could choose, what would I want to say to myself? And if you don't know, ask yourself, what would I say to a friend of mine in this same circumstance? Now you're updating your subconscious by choosing a different thought pattern. So instead of the same thought loop, the action that made you feel bad, that caused you to beat yourself, which made you feel bad again, and staying in that trauma loop, instead of that, you're probably feeling the emotion, then the thought comes, but now you're giving your brain a choice. So instead of continuing, you're taking a detour. You're creating a new neural pathway. Now, in the beginning, those neural pathways are very much like a hill that you're going to go sledding on for the first time. Now, I'm a New Yorker. I have 2 kids. This example hits very much home with me. If you don't live where it's cold, you may not fully understand this. But that first time you go down the hill on the sled, it's like you're dragging the sled. You're barely going at all. The second time you go down it, maybe a little bit. But it's really not until that path is well worn that now you're flying down it. Well, that's the same thing that we have to do with our thought patterns. If we've been through years and decades of people that ingrained horrible and disempowering beliefs in us at an age where we were just a sponge and soaking it up, We have well ingrained thought patterns that lead us to treat ourselves sadly the way those people treated us. And now we're breaking out of that, but it takes effort. This is the hard part. I wish it was like, oh, I learned and now I do. The conscious mind learns that way, right? It can watch a video and learn something super fast. The subconscious mind is a habit mind. It creates its neural pathways through repetition plus emotion. So that's the first step that's involved, is noticing our default thinking, creating like the GPS to what we want to believe and how we want to think. And then every time we notice what comes up in our conscious awareness, every time we notice the old pattern coming on, we give our brain a choice and we select the new. And what will happen, what healing looks like, it's not a turning off of one dialogue and an immediate turning on of the other. Rather, it's a gradual decreasing of that harsh inner critic and a gradual increasing of a compassionate inner dialogue, which is what your parents should have instilled in you in the first place. So it's a reparenting tool as well. And again, that's something that takes time. So be patient with yourself as you begin to create a new default programming, one that you choose instead of one that was forced on you by people that really didn't know what they were doing. That's the mind part of overcoming toxic shame. The other part is the somatic part, or the body part. And again, this is all information and strategies that I share in Thriver School of Transformation. So if doing this inner work this way is something that you're interested in and you want to do it live with me and other survivors, make sure you check out Thriver School of Transformation, because that's what we do. Now, I can't stress the importance of working with the mind, because thoughts affect our biology. I want to share with you a piece of an article that I was reading recently where it said, when we have a thought, it creates neural pathways and proteins. So our thoughts literally create physical matter. They influence our moods, our habits, and our behaviors. It also creates an electromagnetic and neuroendocrine signal that causes our organs and muscles to react, brain chemicals to respond, and our glands to secrete hormones. So our thoughts cause our bodies to change. In other words, our thoughts affect our biology. So we really want to take time to uproot the thoughts that are causing negativity, not only in our emotional states, but in our body as well. So while it's important to change our thoughts, there's something else that's needed if you really want to work through toxic shame and experience lasting change. And that's building your capacity to be with shame in the body. In fact, you won't be able to fully change your thoughts unless you're also able to build your capacity to be with shame. There's a biology to shame, right? Our body has to produce certain hormones. It has to communicate in such a way to give us the chemical signature of shame. Shame does not feel the same in our body as joy does. They're completely different. There's a different biology to joy. So when it comes to the biology of shame, shame is one of the heaviest emotions that we can feel in our body. It's one of the most uncomfortable emotions. In fact, it even has a posture. For example, when somebody has been made to feel shame a lot, you can see it in their body. It's almost like their spine cannot hold them up. Their shoulders are hunched forward. Their head hangs low. And the reason I bring this up is because when we've been through so much shame in our life to the point that we've been traumatized, any moment that we feel shame, especially if you have CPTSD, your body probably got in the habit of dissociating you from it. So the shame would come up and you would probably go into one of your trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Children that were raised in an environment where they were made to feel toxic shame, they're usually stuck in the freeze response because they couldn't fight. They couldn't fight their parents. They couldn't flee. They couldn't run away from home. And so the body gets used to putting you into a freeze state. And so you're dissociating from the emotion of shame. So I'll just describe it through how I experienced it, and maybe this will kind of shed light and make sense to you. For example, if I felt shame come up in my body, now I can say that now, but at the time I didn't realize what was going on. But when I would feel it, I would fall into the trauma response that I was stuck in was the fawn response, which is another common one if you've undergone childhood trauma, because again, you can't fight, you can't flee. So your survival brain's like, well, let's freeze who you really are, because who you really are is getting you in trouble. Let's freeze that and let's socially engage in a way that tries to calm the person hurting you, because if you can calm them, then you'll be safe. And so as a result of that long-term fawn response, when shame would come up in my body and I would disconnect, I would basically dissociate from who I really was. And I would go into this way of socially engaging to make other people happy. I would be charming for them. If they were angry, I would do things to appease, to placate, to try to make others feel okay. I would people please. I would cross my own boundaries. I would say yes when I really wanted to say no. I would push myself when my body was begging me for a break. Now, here's the thing. I wasn't choosing those actions. They were coming from an area of my brain that was subcortical. So it was outside of my thinking areas of the brain. It would happen like that. The problem was, or I shouldn't say the problem, the challenge was, because it was happening so fast, it was almost like my body had no capacity to be with shame. It would come up, fawn. So what I had to start doing was learning how to be with the emotion of shame in my body as the adult that I was, teaching my body that things were different. At 2 years old, no, I could not tolerate shame in my body. No child should have to. The nervous system doesn't update as you age. Like, your body grows, but your nervous system stays with the stories that were embedded those first 7 years of your life. And so to my nervous system, feeling shame now was as dangerous as when I was 2 to my nervous system, because the story still was, if that person is unhappy with me, right? I'm feeling bad. I mean, they're upset. It's my fault. If I don't socially engage to make them happy, I won't be cared for. And I'm 2 years old. And if I'm not cared for, I can die. And so somebody being upset with me in my adult life, until I did the inner work to heal, that same story was playing on a subconscious level. And so if somebody was upset with me and then I thought I was bad, and then there came the shame, my body was like, danger, your life is in danger, trauma response. I had zero capacity for shame. I just want to pause with that, because I know with myself, when I first heard that, it's like my brain was like in a fog and it was really hard to digest. But once I understood that, then I started to do the work to build capacity. And I want to give you an exercise. This was an exercise that I put in Thriver School of Transformation. It was an exercise that we did together during our month of overcoming toxic shame. And it's really about learning how to titrate shame into the body. And what that means is, just like your body digests physical food, right? And it goes through a process. Well, it does the same thing emotionally. Our body has to digest our emotions as well. And so when you overeat, it doesn't feel good, right? You can feel it in your body. Well, when we have too much emotion that our body can't digest fast enough, it feels overwhelming and it's too much. And we can't work with it, because then the brain, the survival brain, sees that and it's like, oh, too much, trauma response. So we don't want that to happen. So that's where titrating comes in, where it's like we give a tiny bit of shame and we notice how we're okay. So we're pendulating between pieces of us that feel shame and pieces of us that feel relatively okay. I encourage you to do this exercise, not in the evening, especially if you're new on this journey. Do this in the morning. Honestly, it's a 5-minute exercise that starts to help you to teach your nervous system that you are big enough to carry that emotion of shame, that you can notice it without having to dissociate from it. In my next video, I'll give you another exercise that's to do after you've done this video for a period of time. So make sure you like and subscribe. And again, if you want to join our live videos where we do this inner work together, make sure you check out the links in the description below. So take a moment to get comfortable sitting or lying down. And just allowing yourself to notice your breath, the gentle rhythm of your inhale and your exhale. Taking a moment to notice where your body makes contact with where you're sitting or laying down. So noticing the back of your legs, your sit bones, if your back is touching the chair or your bed. Take a moment to notice what it feels like to be aware of this support underneath you or behind you. And now taking a moment to notice inside of you the space that you take up. Noticing your bones, the bones in your arms and your joints, the bones and muscles in your legs and your feet and your fascia. Noticing all of the space that makes up you. And seeing if you could notice the deepest place inside, a place that occupies the real you, your most empowered and authentic self. Seeing if you can travel deep inside to notice and be aware of this place inside of you. And now bringing your awareness outside of your body to the space that is around you, that is in front of you, behind you, and all around you. Noticing if you can sense the air on your skin. Is it warm? Is it cool? And if your eyes have been closed, maybe opening them and glancing slowly over your right shoulder. Slowly, and finding something over your right shoulder that maybe catches your eye. Something that you enjoy looking at. And glancing over your left shoulder, slowly looking around and taking in your surroundings. And what's your favorite thing? Just take it in for a moment. Now that we've explored inside a little bit and explored outside a little bit, let's bring our awareness back inside the body and see if we could find a place in our body that is relatively still, quiet, or grounded. Finding that one place that's just so still, so grounded. Really take your time to sense into this place. What are the characteristics that you find here? Is it strong, still, quiet, peaceful? There's no right or wrong. Naming the characteristics that you find in your place out loud or in your head. What do you notice about your body when you spend time feeling from this place? Does your body pause? Is there a breath, an appreciative sigh? a relaxation. Just noticing. If there's not, that's okay too. We're just going to be really curious. As you notice this place in your body, checking in with your spine, feeling the length of your spine all the way down each vertebrae, bringing your awareness down towards your sit bones, really feeling this anchor of support that's here for you. And now, as you think of shame, toxic shame, a moment where something happened that made you feel shame, as you even think about it, notice how your body responds. Does it tense? Does it brace? Does your heart start beating faster? Are there butterflies in your stomach? Do your shoulders go up to your ears? Take a moment to notice the behavior and posture of your body as you think about shame. And we only want to spend a moment there just noticing and validating that piece of us that is bracing. Kind of witnessing it like, I see this piece of me. I see you. And I care. And going back to the place in our body that felt relatively okay. Really taking a moment to sense back into the place in your body that felt relatively okay. And it may take a moment for your body to adjust to feeling from this place, and that's okay. We're just going to give it some time and space. And as you're spending a moment in this place in your body that's relatively okay, noticing again where your body makes contact with your chair or your bed or the floor. Noticing the backs of your legs, feeling the support beneath them. Noticing your sit bones or your tailbone and the support beneath or behind you. Feeling into your body. And really spending a moment in that place that feels relatively okay. And as you do, I want to invite you to have your eyes open in case they were closed. And as you're in that place that's relatively okay, can you also look around your room and find the things that catch your eye that you enjoy looking at? It might be a picture of your family. It might be a pet. There might be a window that gives you a beautiful view outside. So really noticing the things in your space that also feel relatively okay. Slowly glancing over your right shoulder, noticing the things on that side of you. Really making your movements slow as you slowly glance over your left shoulder, taking in that side of the room and all the things that are in your space. And really touching base again with the piece of you that feels most okay in your body. Maybe it was your feet, your hands, your ears, an elbow. It doesn't matter. Just really feeling from that place again as you're glancing and orienting to your surroundings. And you may still notice a small bit of activation where your body braced. And just know that that's okay. And maybe make a promise to that piece of you that you'll be back. And that you're learning to help it work through feeling strong emotions in the body. And practice this exercise daily to build your capacity to be with small pieces of shame. You'll notice that we spent most of the time in the areas of our body that felt relatively okay, and just a moment in the piece of us that might be carrying shame. This is equivalent to going to the gym and beginning with weights that are appropriate to somebody that's newly going to the gym. We would never pick the heaviest weights. As we do this exercise, we want to be responsible and titrate in such a way that we include small doses of shame, as we also help our nervous system to realize all of the resources that it does have, even at the moment.